Hello everybody and welcome to our Ash Class Phonics talk for 2020 and it's really strange to not see you face to face. Normally we'd love to have you into Ash Class and show you the environment and do a real model lesson with you. Obviously that's not possible this year, but I was thinking actually this video gives me more opportunity to be a bit more detailed than I would usually be able to be in the time given. And it also allows you to come back and revisit this. So if there's anything that you've forgotten or want to just double check, you can always come back and revisit this video. So in this talk, I'm going to explain what we mean by phonics, how we teach early reading and writing in Ash Class and at Twyford St Mary's, and we're going to talk about what makes a tricky word, what makes a word tricky, and why they're so important and why they are so important to practice and they're so good for children's confidence. Then I'm going to talk briefly about how we teach reading of whole texts. So for example, through guided reading and a love for reading in Ash Class. And that will bring us along nicely to talking about things like reading books and all the bits and bobs that end up in book bags that you probably aren't too sure about at the moment. So I'll explain a bit more about those. You might want a pen and paper as we go through because there are a few little interactive bits, and you might also just have a question that pops into your head that you want to remember. All of these questions, just send them in to me or to the office. We'll get back to you as soon as we can, or ask me on the playground. I'm there every day. Okay, off we go. So welcome to the fabulous journey that is learning to read and write. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will feel a lot more confident in knowing how we teach reading and writing to your child and how you can help at home. So reading's so key, such an important area, as I'm sure you know. We want them to read fluently, to be confident, but it's a very tricky thing. So we teach reading of words through phonics, synthetic systematic phonics, but we just call it phonics day to day. And phonics is the idea that words are made out of sounds, a bit like building blocks, and you can put those sounds together in different ways to build different words. Here are some single sounds. Let's talk a bit more about that now. So phonics is based on the idea that words in English are made from sounds, and when you put those sounds together, they can build words, but you can also put them in a different order to synthesize that word. So the first few sounds we learn are s, a, t, p, I, n. Those are the first 6 sounds we learn, and you might think it's strange that we don't teach A, B, C, D. We don't teach alphabetically. And the reason we do that is because the letters s, a, t, p, I, n give, we call it sapping, give the children more words they can read and write and build quicker. So they can read from the first 3 sounds. As soon as they know s, at, they can read the word sat. As soon as they know p, they can read pat, they can read tap. So we encourage that reading and that blending of those sounds and the synthesizing of those sounds as quickly as possible, and it makes children feel really confident and proud of themselves straight away. So that's the whole idea with phonics, is that once you know those sounds, you can mix them and put them together in loads of different ways to build different words. So once you know your sapping, those first 6 sounds, which the children in Ash Class do now, you can do the word n, a, p, nap. So we would then blend those sounds. I've used the word blend, and we use the word blend with children as well to make a whole word. So we might say t, a, p, tap. So here's just a bit more information about how we teach phonics in the classroom. It's daily. We teach phonics daily. It's really important it's daily. In fact, at the moment in Ash Class, we're doing 1 full session where we learn a new sound plus a revision session from the previous day. So we're actually doing double at the moment. And that's just pure phonics teaching. That doesn't include things like reading. It doesn't include things like our adult led activities in challenge time. It's just such a rich environment full of, we're always learning our sounds. We're always revisiting those sounds. But our actual structured phonics lessons are once a day for roughly 20 minutes. But as I said, we're doing a bonus one at the moment. And we have a jolly phonics song to go with each sound. Now they start phonics. Phonics is chopped by the Letters and Sounds programme into 6 phases. And the phase 1 actually starts in nursery. So they would have started, I know our local playgroup does, and lots of other playgroups do. They start learning phase 1. Now that does not include learning any sounds, specific letter sounds. So phase 1 is not letter sounds. It is tuning children's ears into hearing the sounds around them. So they can distinguish between different sounds. They can distinguish between high and low, loud and quiet. They can distinguish between animal sounds, for example, or different instruments, or things that are crunchy or soft. And they can also notice things like rhyme and alliteration. So that's why we do lots and lots of singing at this age group, because it helps to tune children's ears in, as well as all the other good learning they can get from it. But that's phase one. And we do phase one. We revise phase one at the beginning of the year. So we've already done that this year. And when and only when the children have achieved that and we know that they can distinguish between sounds, do we start teaching phase two. So we don't start until they're ready. Our children are ready, so we have started phase two now. And phase two consists of single letter sounds and some double consonants. So we teach the phonemes, the sounds that you hear, and we teach the graphemes, the letters that you see written on the page. And we use that vocabulary, phoneme and grapheme, with children so they will know that. And we teach them in different sets, so you can see they just roll into each other. So it'll be a week by week, as you can see. Each set is probably about a week. Set 5's a bit more. Not in alphabetical order, as I've already explained. And as we learn them, we practice blending, which I'll talk about a bit more. We keep it nice and short, and you will see a phase two model lesson in just a minute. So when we're done with all of those and we're sure the children have got them, and not before, we don't rush it. There's no point in rushing phonics. Consolidation is so key. When they're ready, then we go on to phase three. Phase three has got some single letters, the trickier ones, and the less common ones, but it also has some digraphs. Digraphs are sounds, single sounds made with two letter shapes. So you've got your ch, r, sh, or. They are single sounds made with a digraph. They are digraphs. So you've got your C and H making the ch, one ch sound. And then we also have some trigraphs. So later on you'll see the EAR making the ear sound, the IGH making the I sound, and the AIR trigraph making the air sound. So we do teach trigraphs. Children find those really tricky. So the more practice they can get at home, the better with those. So yes, that's phase three. And then they go on to phase four. Now this is usually the end of year R, phase four. Phase four we do is, they actually don't learn any new sounds in phase four. Phase four is purely about consolidation and teaching adjacent consonants. And that means that it's a word where two consonants are next to each other. For example, you'll see it says CVCC words. That stands for consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. A word like wand is a CVCC word. It's got a consonant, w, vowel, a, and two consonants, nd. And it's the blending of those two consonants next to each other that children find really tricky, that nd, to put those together. So they practice blending those. And they also practice CCVC, so words that start with something like a spin, two consonants together, because we don't teach all of the adjacent consonant sounds. There's just so many to learn. It's better that children learn the skill of blending them themselves, so that when they come across a word like help, help, they can blend it together. And there's more tricky words with each phase. Each phase has its own set of tricky words, so you'll know when they're doing those, because they will come home in their book bags. You will get a sheet of tricky words for you to do as you please. But it is not, sadly, as easy as learning all the single sounds, because sometimes a sound can be made with a different grapheme. It can be written in lots of different ways. So here are some examples. The s sound can be a single s on its own. It can be a double s, which we'll learn quite soon. Or it can be like the word horse, which ends in a sound, but it's got an E with the s. It can also, confusingly enough, be spelled with the letter C, which obviously for our children, they know that as the k sound, but in words like circle and peace, it's a soft C. It makes a soft s sound because it's followed by an I or an E. Now that spelling rule, it's not a sound, it's a spelling rule that they will learn in year 2. So these sounds you see here will be learnt by the end of Key Stage 1, but they take a long time to consolidate, and they will go on to consolidate these spelling rules throughout their primary education. And the E sound is very similar as well, as you can see. So here is a model lesson as the children would see. This is how they learn their individual sounds. I would use flashcards, but I don't have those, so I'm going to just write on the whiteboard today. So as class, we are going to learn a new sound today, but before we do that, we're going to look at some of the sounds that you already know. You already know this sound. You try. So this means me, this means you. You already know this sound. Ah, ah. You already know this sound. T, t. And I'd carry on and we'd remember all the sounds we already know. We'd go through all of those. And today we are going to learn a new sound and it looks like this. Here is the grapheme we are learning today, and the phoneme to match this grapheme is Can you say the sound? Mm, mm, mm. Very good. Okay, when we make the sound, do you notice your lips pressed together? That's how we make the sound with our mouths. Mouth starts with as well. Here are some more words that start with the sound. Let's take a look. Okay, here's our grapheme. We have our lowercase and our capital We use that for the start of names or places or days of the week, but mostly you'll see the lowercase and the sound is at the beginning of words like moon, money, mailbox, mummy, monkey, man and mouse. All of these words start with the sound. Do you know any people or things that start with an? Tell the person next to you. Can you see anything in the room that starts with And the children might draw things to go on our phonics display that start with label them with the letter shape. Or if their name starts with and we have got a few children whose names start with their faces go on the phonics board next to the letter shape. So that's good fun for them. And it just helps them remember and they refer back to it. Let's learn this song. So here we have a picture of a little girl and she's learning the sound and she has had a lovely delicious meal. Who cooks the meals in your house? I bet it's your mummy or your daddy or your grown-ups. I bet it's the grown-ups in your house. And she's rubbing her tummy because she's had a yummy meal. And the song is all about the little girl singing about the meal she's had. I wonder if the sound's going to work. That's the action we do. So we link the action to the sound so that they can do the action or we can do the action. It just acts as a prompt and acts as a sort of a kinesthetic reminder. So here is the song.
The mom and the dad make many meals. The mom and the dad make many meals for their hungry children.
And then we practice writing the grapheme, the letter shape on the page. So I will model it on the board, I'll model how we write it, we keep our pen on the paper the whole time. That's something children like to do, is they like to take the pen off the page midway through a letter shape. We keep it on there the whole time and we go down and over and over, down and over. And then we get the children to practice writing it with their pointing fingers. So get your big pointing finger. Can you draw an enormous in the sky? Can you draw a tiny one on the palm of your hand? Can you draw one with your nose? Can you draw one on your knee? All those fun things. So some parents are worried that they're going to make mistakes or they're going to teach the wrong thing. Please don't worry. I think as long as you're enjoying it and you're learning alongside with your child, there's no need to worry. They just need to know that you love reading and writing as much as they do. And really that will inspire them to keep on trying. But there is one mistake that is a pet peeve of mine and of teachers all around the country who teach phonics, and it is called the dreaded schwa. And a schwa is when we pronounce a sound with an on the end of the pure sound. So what I mean by that is instead of people might say no. That's not the pure sound. Instead of people might say m. Instead of people might say la. No, because the reason why we need to say the pure d, n, the pure sounds, sounds, it's harder to do, but it's more important. The reason why we need the pure sounds is because when children go to write a word like man, if they've been taught that the man starts with a m, they're going to write m, a, n, because it sounds like man. It's man. Okay, so please be careful of schwas when you're teaching and when you're revising sounds. It's really the only mistake you can make, is to do the impure sound, and it makes it trickier for the children going forward as they learn trickier words and as they learn more sounds. So please be careful. If you're not sure of a sound, I'm going to put a link to all the sounds being pronounced by the lady from Letters and Sounds. She's saying them just the pure sounds. So she's doing a great example of what to do. Okay, so really that's the only mistake or the only misconception children have. And sometimes we do have children starting school and they will say, my name begins with a la, or my name begins with a duh. And it's quite frustrating because we know that's not the pure sound and we then have to unpick that and we then have to teach them again. So really important, no schwas, just pure sounds. So when we have learnt lots of sounds, we can put them together, as I said, into words, and we can use lots of different ways to get children interested and noticing when they segment, chop up, and when they blend, put together those sounds into words. So we sometimes use ninja words like shirt. That really helps the hand to action to show them how we blend. You might do disco arms, which are very fun. It's when we do one sound per boogie and then we mix them all together when we blend. So d, hand, or barn, or robot arms. So you could do paint. So the robot does a little dance at the end, but he does one sound per move. And it's just another way of having fun and keeping it, keeping it age appropriate. So have a go at that. It also helps if they need to spell a word. So if they say, well, how do I spell hand? You would say, you could go d, hand, and then they blend that all together themselves. So in terms of things you will find in your child's book bag, you will find a banded reading book. Now at the moment this will be lilac. After lilac comes red, which is when we have learned all of our single sounds. Then they will be taking home red books because that's when they can start to practice decoding words by blending and segmenting cat and all of that. So they will start to take home red books very, very soon. They will also have a yellow reading diary, which you can write in if you like, if every time they read at home. I know lots of times people forget, life is very busy, don't worry. We know that you read with them even if you don't write in it. And equally for us, sometimes we are reading with the children, but it's not always going in the diary because of things like if it's an ad hoc story in challenge time, or if it's an end of the day story, or if it's a whole class guided read, then that doesn't go in there, but it is still obviously taught in class. So they will have a banded reading book, a yellow reading diary. You will also find something that looks a bit like this. It is a Jolly Phonics workbook. So that is just all the Jolly Phonics pictures to go with all the sounds they've learnt. You can use that like flashcards, just like, oh, remember that sound? Can you do the action for tennis? Can you do for meal? All of that, those kind of things. So you will get one of those, you'll get a little white workbook. They can colour it in if they like, lots of children do. And you will also very soon start to get some tricky word sheets, which I would probably chop up into flashcards and do tricky words. They start very easy, words like I, the, go, things like that, and to. So those are the first few tricky words. So you'll see those things in there. I forgot to mention one other thing you'll find inside the yellow reading diary. There will be a sticker and that will be near the front and it will say Bug Club Login. So Bug Club is something quite new to our school we've started using, and it's basically an online library full of all of the banded reading books we have in school. So all of the books we also have the online version, which is brilliant. So if your child forgets to change their book one day but you still want to read, you can get this up on a tablet or on a laptop and they can still read. Or if they're really tired, it will read back to them. And then they can just work through the banded books as they're ready. So it's up to you really if they prefer. Obviously, it's really good for them to have a physical book to learn that whole page turning up the right way. But if occasionally, why not read online? If you're going on holiday, for example, you might want to do that. And I will just let me know when you get to the end of the book band, and I'll pop you up to the next one. So let's have a bit of a look. Should we have a look at how Bug Club works? As I said, your login will be in your child's reading diary, but this is what it will look like on the page. So this is Bug Club. It's Active Primary. That's the web address, but Active Learn Primary. Sorry, but if you type Bug Club into Google, it will come up with that. It will be the top search. So you will need to sign in. You'll get the details on a sticker inside their reading diary. It'll be different to mine, obviously, but the school code is the same for everybody. So the school code is HTHW. And it will look different, obviously, as a child viewing it than it would do for me. But I'll just show you all the things we do have access to. Now, they won't have access to all of these at the same time, just the book band that they are on, and then they'll progress through them. The book bands are really closely linked to their phonics stage, so that if they're on phase 2, they will only be accessing phase 2 books, and it's really important for their confidence so they don't get knocked back when they come across something they haven't been taught yet. It's just not fair. So we will put them on the next phase when they're ready and when they've learned it. For some children, even though we may have taught phase 2, for example, they might not have embedded that learning yet. So they might not be on phase 3, even though that might be what we're teaching. So they might still need some of their phase 2 books. It won't let me show you inside the books, which is a bit of a pain, but they're basically an ebook, and the children can read it, or it can read it back to them, which is quite fun too. So it's an ebook. They're exactly the same text as we will give you book form. You might even recognise some of these. But it was just really useful during lockdown. It's really useful if they forget to bring a book home or things like that. Or if there's someone that really likes using a tablet, it's a nice way to get them to do that. And there are little games at the end of it that they can do, really short little phonicsy games. There are also phonics lessons attached to this. I'm not sure how to assign those yet, but when I figure it out, I'll let you know, and I might assign them. But again, as I've said, nothing is absolutely necessary. It's all purely for consolidation. If you think your child is ready, then please do. This is a great resource for us to use. Okay, so I'm sure you're thinking, well, it's quite different reading to your child and reading with your child, so expecting them to take the lead on reading the words. The colour books will really help with this, because everything they're reading should be within their ability, or it should be something that they know, or in theory you should know. And if they forget, you can help them or prompt them. But I would say my top tip for reading with this age is for you to know which words are tricky words. So which words can they not decode with their sounds? Which words should they just know by sight? And they should be words they know again, because they're within the book band that they're on. And which words can be decoded with sounds? So if you're coming across the word the, you say, well, that's a tricky word. We know that, that's the. And if it's a word they can decode, like dog, you say, right, well, what does it start with? It starts with d, then it's o. And if you need to blend and segment it for them, then that's fine. Or you could segment it so the sounds are d, o, g, and then they might blend it together. That's fine as well. It's all modelling, it's all helping them to understand. But also, if they're too tired to read the words, the actual word reading is not just reading the words off the page. Reading, of course, consists of understanding the story. So you might just ask them questions. If you're reading to them and they are understanding and they are comprehending, that is still learning to read. So if you're asking them questions like, what might happen next? Or how's the character feeling? Have you ever, for example, if the character's painting a picture, have you ever painted a picture, or what happened for you? Do you think that's going to happen here? Things like that. So that is all reading too. And if your child's really tired, that's probably one of the better ways to go, because it just keeps it a bit more fun, a bit more lighthearted, and it's not stressful for you, because there's no point in you being stressed about it. And also think about the breadth of what they're reading. So if they're really into stories, and get them reading some non-fiction ever so often, and vice versa. And we will, of course, they can change their reading books as often as they like, If there's someone that forgets a lot or who gets through a lot of books, feel free to take 2 or 3 books at a time. That's no problem. We've got loads of reading books. Right, and reading within Ash class. So we of course do loads of reading in Ash class. Our whole classroom is just rich with opportunities for reading, writing, storytelling. We've got books all over the place. We don't have a specific book corner, and that's just because our children love to read everywhere. They like to read outside, they like to read under tables and dens, they like to read everywhere. So we just put the books all over the place. They have opportunities to tell stories in role play areas or with puppets, make their own puppets. They have listening areas. Obviously, the adults will be reading stories with them. We have several story times a day. And that is all to encourage a love of reading. We also vote for the storybook of the day. That's teaching a love of reading, but also democracy. So we have loads, everything in our environment is designed to build that love of learning, love of reading and love of learning, as well as our more formal adult-led sessions. So it might be phonics, it might be a guided reading group, might be one-to-one reading or a story, or it also might just be a phonics game. We might take a few children and think, well, we're going to go and work on the, whatever, the E sound. We might go play a game like Silly Soup or all sorts, lots of different games we play. And here are just some useful websites that you might like to see. Mr. Thorne, he's great. He's got some phonics lessons. They can just watch those if you think they need a reminder. Or he's got Geraldine, who is a hoot. The children love her. She learns the sounds along with them. Phonics Play is lots of games. It was free for a long time, but I think they're going to start charging very soon, so you might want to get in there quickly. BBC, of course, is always fantastic. And I'm going to put a link to the Jolly Phonics songs, and I'm going to put a link to the sounds being made, the pure sounds, at the bottom underneath this video. So that's probably worth a look. If there are any sounds you're not sure how to say, please do feel free to watch that. Well, I think that's quite enough information from me. It's a lot, I know. It's a lot to take in one go. So that's why, again, I think the video is quite a good idea because you can watch it back. You can watch it in parts if you just want to know about reading at home, if you just want to know how we teach phonics and things like that. Just want to know about Bug Club. So that's fine. Please do ask me any questions you have. I am always here. Email, phone, either way. Find me on the playground and I can help you with anything you need. Okay, but really, all I want to say is enjoy the journey. It's such a magical time in your child's life when they're starting to learn to read and write. It opens up such a huge world of possibilities for them. It's magical. So enjoy it. It doesn't need to be stressful. It is lovely. Okay, take care everyone. See you soon. Bye bye.